Okay, everyone, welcome to our webinar series on addressing single-use plastic products pollution using a life cycle approach. This is the second of two sessions for this time zone. My name is Alison Watson and I will be your moderator for this session. And I'm joined by an exciting lineup of speakers and my UNEP colleagues, Laura, Lorenz and Claudia, who are also online and will be helping to run this session today. Before we start, I want to give you some information on how to use the WebEx platform. Next slide. Okay, you'll see here that this should look like your screen. And if you look at the right-hand bottom corner of your screen, you'll see a menu bar that says Participants, Chat, and 3 dots. And I've put a big red circle around it. You can click on any of these to pop out the menu, and I'd encourage you to do so now, because that means you'll be able to see where you can enter your Q&As straight away when you have a burning question, where you can chat to tell us any information or share any resources. And also, if you want to talk verbally, you can raise your hand. And if we have time, we will allow some verbal comments off the floor. So just a reminder, the main way we'll be interacting today is using that Q&A box, and we really encourage you to write in your questions to any of our speakers. It really makes a very interactive session. And please ask your question to all panelists. Okay, next slide, please. Quick reminder today for everyone, the webinar is being recorded and we will try and get you a recording and copy of the presentations very soon, perhaps shortly after the next webinar, which will be around the end of next week. Next slide, please. Now, before we start, I'm going to try, oh no, I haven't. I'm not going to do a poll yet. I might do one later when we've got a few more people joining. So I'm going to move to the next slide. And I'm just going to point out here that we have a very full agenda. So we do have those 3 country case studies, which will be really interesting to hear what actually happens in the country and how do policymakers develop policy on single-use plastic products. We'll also hear from one of the authors of the LCA meta-studies on shopping bags, beverage bottles, takeaway food containers. At the very end, we're going to have a panel session where we invite the 3 country case study speakers to answer your questions. So it will be a lively session at the end there. Next slide, please. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker today, Lorenz Miller-Canal, and he is the Life Cycle Assessment Team Leader from UNEP. Lorenz, welcome.
Well, many thanks, Alison, for getting us all here today, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. So just I'll speak very, very briefly just to introduce and to explain why we're here and what's the context. So maybe let's move to the next slide already. Oh, we have it there. So just in terms of context presented today, it comes from the resolution on addressing single-use plastic products pollution that was approved in the last UNEA in March 2019. I will not spend time on this because, well, we already explained it in the previous webinars, but for those of you who were not there, it's worth remembering that that resolution notes that the pollution from single-use plastic products is still growing, despite many actions by all members of the plastics value chain, particularly from governments, but also the private sector. The third bullet, which is highlighted here, is the work that is being requested by the resolution, work requested of UNEP, that we will be discussing today. So it's about making available the existing information of the actions that member states, as well as other actors, are taking to address plastic pollution, but also information on the full life cycle impacts of single-use plastic products and their alternatives. This last part, the coordination of the studies, has been coordinated by the Life Cycle Initiative. We're now in the next slide already. So this is just a summary of the outline, that the milestones that we've been approaching in the last year and a half, and the work that is going to happen until the end of the year and the next UNEA in February. You will have seen already that the first life cycle assessment meta studies that will be presented today are already available online in the website that you have here on your screens. And today we're obviously in this dissemination phase in the webinars. So if we move to the next one, please. And before I give the microphone back to Alison, just to remind you that the discussion that we're having today sits in the framework of a much broader work in UNEP on single-use plastic products. And so many of you are probably stock-taking exercise of actions by member states is happening in the context of the ad hoc expert group on marine litter and microplastics. There's also work being done on legislation, the work of the One Planet Network task force on plastics. So there's certainly a lot, and I encourage you to explore the website. But now, certainly through this webinar, also remember that this is we want to have a dialogue. So please keep posting your questions via the Q&A, as mentioned by Alison. And we will address as many of them during the webinar, but otherwise we'll strive to also provide answers after the webinar. So now, yes, without further delay, over back to you, Alison, for the next speaker. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Lorenz. Excellent introduction, and we will have a speaker next week that will just talk briefly about that ad hoc group as well. I'm just going to open the poll quickly. Just Gustav, just wait, just maybe 1 minute. He's an extremely enthusiastic speaker, so that's always a good sign. I'm just going to open this poll, and I'm going to see if people can put in their choice which organisation best represents the organisation that you work for. It's a good time to do it because we've got 164 people online so far. We'll just give it a little bit more time. And I can see people are already using the chat box, so that is great. I think you've got a few more seconds. And I'm going to just wait till my chat box goes off because I can't see the... And I can't see that. Here we go, the results. Let me just show you, everyone. We have... Looks like we have... I'm going to have to do the... It's not giving me the percentages here, but we do have a lot of people from government and the private sector leading and research organisations. So I'll give you the percentages later. It just helps us to understand who's in the room. So thank you for joining us. And that actually brings us to our next speaker, Gustav Sanden. Gustav is one of the co-authors of these single-use plastic products reports, and he joins us as an LCA expert and researcher from IVL, the Swedish Environmental Institute. And he specifically worked on the reports on plastic bottles and takeaway food packaging, but I believe he'll give us a few other highlights from the earlier report as well. Welcome, Gustav.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about our 3 reports today. I will stop my video not to create problems here with my Wi-Fi. But and it's nice to see so many people here, several names I recognize since before. Yes, we're going to talk about the 3 reports on single-use plastic products. Next slide, please. The reports cover single-use plastic bags, plastic bottles, and plastic takeaway food packaging. They were written by me and my colleagues Thomas, Christine, and Sofia. Next slide. The reports aim at summarizing the current life cycle assessment-based knowledge about the environmental performance of single-use plastic products and their alternatives. And for each of these products, we compare the environmental performance with several alternatives, such as cotton bags, aluminum cans, and paper alternatives, as well as reusable options. And we looked at the implication of this knowledge for policymakers and other actors aiming at reducing the environmental impact of single-use plastic products. We also looked at the recommendations to LCA practitioners to improve future studies. The method we used was a meta-analysis of 6 or 7 LCA studies per report. So note that this is not a review of the complete research field, but an in-depth analysis of a few studies. We also looked at reflections on a few other studies when relevant. And the selection of studies was done to cover a wide range of different product alternatives and geographical scopes with a focus on peer-reviewed studies. I will not go into the details of the selected studies today, but please, these can be found in the reports. And today the focus will be on findings of relevance to policymakers. Next slide, please. First, let's start with the report on single-use plastic bags and their alternatives. An important characteristics for the environmental impact of these products we found to be the material type, the weight of the bag, the number of uses of the bag before disposal, the technology and energy used in production. For example, the climate impact of paper bag varies greatly depending on what fuel is used in pulp and paper production and how the forest is managed where the raw material comes from. Also, waste management was found to be very important. For example, paper bags ending up in landfills emit methane, contributing to climate change, but if they are incinerated, they are most often considered climate neutral, not contributing to climate change. Whereas fossil-based plastic bags being incinerated contribute to climate change. Also, we saw that the environmental impact of all bags are reduced by recycling. So depending on end-of-life option you have at hand, the relative environmental performance of different bags can differ. Finally, it's important to mention that ranking of bags varies between environmental impacts. For example, plastic bags is a poor option in terms of littering and microplastics, but scores well in terms of climate change, acidification, eutrophication, water use, and land use. So the overall ranking will depend on the priority of environmental aspects. It's worth noting that the bags are responsible for a significant share of the littering worldwide, but a small share of the climate impact compared to other products. So the priority is not only about the importance of different environmental problems, but also how important the product is for that problem. Next slide, please. We found that reusable bags can be environmentally superior to single-use bags if used many times. Cotton bags needs to be reused 50 to 150 times to have lower climate impact than single-use plastic bags. But thicker reusable plastic bags must be reused 5 to 20 times. But this is for climate impact. For other types of environmental indicators, the break-even point takes place at fewer or more number of uses. Also, it should be mentioned that cotton bags and thicker plastic bags may carry more goods, so they may not be functionally identical as single-use bags. This must also be considered. Reducing impacts of bags is not just about choosing, banning, recommending, or prescribing specific materials, but also about changing consumer behavior. And this specifically concerns to increase the reuse rate and to avoid littering. Finally, the shopping bag that has the least environmental impact is the bag the consumer already has at home. This further emphasizes the importance of reuse. More detailed conclusions on single-use plastic bags are available in the report. For example, you can see how specific parts of the life cycle, such as waste management, influences specific comparisons, such as plastic bag versus paper bags versus cotton bags. Next slide, please. Let's move on to the single-use plastic bottles and their alternatives. Here, important characteristics for the environmental impact of these products are material type. And this is not only about plastic bottles versus glass bottles versus aluminum cans, but also about bio-based versus fossil plastics, recycled versus virgin content, etc. So we can see that variations within a material category is often larger than variations between materials. Also, the weight of the bottle is important, the number of uses, the waste management again, maturity of technology, the size of container, and also the geographical context. Particularly, we could see that recycling rates of, for example, PET bottles and aluminum cans can vary greatly between regions and countries. And this has an important effect on the relative environmental impact of compared alternatives. Also here we see that it's common with trade-offs between impact categories. So these trade-offs must be recognized and managed. And the overall ranking will depend on the priority of environmental aspects. Next slide, please. So let's continue. To reduce the environmental impact of plastic bottles and their alternatives, policies must consider functional differences. For example, the container's capacity to deliver different kinds of beverages to different customers at different times. Policies must consider difference within and between material categories. They must account for differences in technology maturity. They must consider differences in end-of-life practices, for example, differences in collection, recycling, and reuse rates, which in turn depend on geographical context. And finally, they must be based on several sources of information, not only life cycle assessment, as not all relevant environmental impacts are in general covered by LCAs. For example, littering is seldom covered, and impacts of land use, for example, on biodiversity, is seldom covered. So you might have to look at other sources of information as well. Please, next slide. Let's move on to the final report on single-use plastic takeaway food packaging and its alternatives. Important characteristics for the environmental impact are material type. For example, single-use polystyrene or paper packaging was shown in these studies to often have better environmental performance than single-use PET, PLA, or aluminum packaging. And PLA is generally a better option than PET. So there are some preferable materials in general. Please read more about this in the report. Having said that, also other factors within each material categories are very important for the relative environmental impact. For example, the weight of the packaging, whether it's single or multi-use, reusable packaging is environmentally preferable if used a sufficient number of times. But not only the number of uses is important, but also how the delivery and take-back system is set up, including transportation modes and distances. Functionality is important. For example, the capacity of the packaging to prevent food waste, as the food in the packaging often have a larger environmental impact than the packaging itself. Production route and raw material is important. The maturity of technology, the waste management, and here I can mention that food leftovers can impede recyclability of this kind of single-use plastics, making reusability or compostability a more preferable design option for takeaway food packaging compared to the bags and bottles, for example. And finally, geographical context is important, once again, especially it influences consumer behavior and waste management. Next slide, please. So policies on single-use plastic takeaway food packaging and its alternatives must consider functional differences, for example, how well it prevents food waste, but also different materials may be suitable for different types of packaging and different types of food. They must consider differences between and within material categories. They must consider the complete reuse system, including transportation and washing practices, and not just the number of reuses, although that's very important as well. They must consider differences in end-of-life practices. Again, this is important for all these product categories we talked about today. And they must be based on several sources for information, not only LCA. Please, next slide. So let's summarize the general message for all these three studies. Policies designed to reduce the environmental impact of single-use plastic products must have a systems perspective, including consideration of the life cycle perspective from cradle to grave, the production of systems and raw materials in use, the end-of-life infrastructure, the consumer behavior, direct and indirect environmental impact. And with indirect impact, we mean the influence on, for example, how much food waste is created. And finally, trade-offs between environmental impact categories must be recognized and managed. And to enable this system perspective, one must consider or commission context-specific LCA studies, for example, reflecting the particular consumer and waste management practices in the country or region at hand. And the studies must cover, one must also consider or commission studies covering other environmental aspects than those covered by LCA, for example, littering. We also recommend to involve LCA expertise when interpreting results, as the influence of system boundaries, allocation methods, and other key assumptions must be understood to fully understand and use the results in a good way. This was very short on each report and some general conclusions. Please read the reports for hopefully more valuable information. They are quite comprehensive, and I think they can be useful for policy development worldwide. Next slide, please. Thank you very much for listening to this short presentation. I'm available now for a few minutes to listen on some questions.
Excellent, Gustav. Thank you very much for that presentation. And yeah, very nicely in time as well. So congratulations on that. There is a lot of information in the study, so I do recommend people download them or have a look at them online and read through them. Quite a few questions are coming through. So I have one here. At several occasions, you mentioned that maturity of the technology matters. Could you please explain?
Thanks for a good question. Yes, what I mean is that new and less established and smaller scale solutions, both for production and for waste management, often causes larger impact compared to solutions that have matured more and be scaled up to a large extent. So efficiency increases over time and with larger scale, often translating to lower environmental impact. And this must be considered when designing policy, not to judge new solutions based on unfair comparisons. For example, we can see that some bio-based plastics probably perform worse compared to other bio-based plastics and compared to fossil-based plastics due to less mature technology and smaller scale. This is important to consider in policy making.
Great, thank you. Another question here. You mentioned something about you have to take into consideration the differences within and between the material categories. What do you mean by between or within the material categories as well as between?
What I mean with within is that a plastic bottle might look just identical to another plastic bottle at first outlook, but the differences in both the raw material may be significant. The raw material may be recycled or non-recycled, bio-based or non-bio-based, and also what kind of power is used to power the production is very important. And this is showed both for the plastic products, but also the alternatives, specifically paper products. We saw that so there are great variations between what may seem as identical products. But then between material categories, there are also, of course, differences. But these are often on the same order of magnitude as those within material categories. So you cannot judge just the material category without knowing the full production chain.
Okay, great. Here's a question here. You mentioned that the functionality of the packaging type needs to be considered. Do you have any concrete suggestions on how to do that within LCA, functional units, or an additional analysis?
I mean, it's good practice in LCA to try to capture as many functional differences as possible. However, sometimes it becomes, if you're too detailed, it becomes impossible to compare any alternatives because they often differ in some way. So I think yes, defining a good functional unit is very important. For example, a serving of a certain food of a certain size to a certain customer. But you also maybe need to, when you develop policy making, you need to also consider what other differences are there in terms of functionality. And also a product may have different functionality in different contexts. So it's they can often be used, a plastic bottle may be used for different kind of beverages, for example. And they can be used at home or they can be used to carry away the beverage. So it's
Here's a bit. It's prefaced with, I have a bit of a provocative question, and the question is: are there any new conclusions from the studies? All the conclusions I'm seeing and hearing are conclusions that are well known for 20 years and more. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, in our study there are no new conclusions because it's a meta-analysis of already published studies.
Yes.
These studies were published in the last 10 years. And we also looked at earlier studies, but we can see that the number of LCA studies have exploded in the last 10 years. So there are much more material available in the past 10 years than before. So for many of these product categories, and the specific products looked at, the information was not available 20 years ago. Although some general knowledge about single-use plastics was known among experts, of course.
Yes,
But
thanks.
for especially the novel materials that are covered by the studies that didn't even exist 20 years ago, there's new knowledge available.
Excellent. Good point, Gustav. Thank you for that answer. Here's a question here. Do you know of any work, because you recommended some work around this and you saw this as a potential limitation at the moment, but do you know of any work that is looking at trying to measure that littering impact or the microplastics or the biodiversity and somehow take that into account in LCAs?
Yes, there are projects now going on method development for example, marine littering. There's a project called Marie LCA.
Okay.
You can look at the website marielca.org, for example. That has been launched to fill the gap of how to make impact assessment of marine littering. And there's also extensive method development going on in terms of biodiversity impact and land use impact. So I think in the coming 10 years, we will see new knowledge in this field and maybe more fair comparison between product categories as well. But the current available published LCAs, this information is not available, and you often have to look at qualitative studies outside the LCA field for this complementary information.
Excellent. Thank you for that. That's extremely interesting. Here's a question around consumer behaviour. That seems to be an important part of work on single-use plastic products. How does that get taken into account in the LCA?
It's often in terms of the assumptions when it comes to the use and end-of-life phases. As these are not in control of the producer, these are often a model in terms of scenarios. So you have, for example, several scenarios of the number of reuse times, for example. So that's often how these differences in consumer behavior are captured. However, sometimes you also have actual reuse behavior or other consumer behavior of the specific geographical context, but there's often a lack of information and data on actual behavior, especially use behavior. But whereas the available end-of-life data differs between countries. So some countries, there's good data on recycling rates and reuse rates of different materials, whereas when there's a lack of formal systems or formal infrastructure for end-of-life, there's less data available, of course.
Okay. Excellent. Here's a question here around on plastic bottles. You mentioned the size of the container matters for the environmental impact. Can you explain more around how that size of the container makes a difference?
Another good question. Of course, larger container has a larger impact, but smaller impact per liter of beverage, per volume of beverage, for example. But what we really mean here is that the preferred container material can be different for different container sizes. For example, one of the studies we analyzed showed that paper cartoons are the best option for juice packaging of small volumes, but for bigger volumes, there was no such clear benefit for paper cartoons. So the suitable alternative may differ depending on the size of the food or the beverage that is considered.
Excellent. I've got one last question for you. It's around reusable bags. We know that the recommendations looked at that reusable bags were a good option, and the bag in the person's home is the best bag to be using. They do have to be used more than once, though, obviously. Do you think consumers need more education about the fact that they do need to be reusing their reusable bags? Does there need to be more effort around that, or do you think people understand that?
That's why one of our recommendations in terms of the bag report is that we need both incentives and educations provided to consumers to reduce both consumption of bags, but also the reusability of different bags, and also in terms of where to put it at end of life.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, we do need more education to consumers, and this can be in terms of consumer information on the bag itself or in other forms, of course.
Great. Thank you so much, Gustav. That is it. You have got to the end and you've answered all those questions extremely well. It's given us a lot more information, and I can see that a lot of people are asking questions and getting further information as well from the team behind the scenes. So it's obviously sparked a bit of discussion there. So thank you, Gustav, for joining us today. And I know that you have another meeting to go to, so you can't spend all your time today with us, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck with the rest of the meeting. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Wasana Jangprajak. Wasana is an environmentalist with 22 years of experience on National Plan on Integrated Waste Management, Packaging Waste Management, and Waste Management by the 3R strategy, Reduce, Reuse, Recycle. And she works for the Pollution Control Department in the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment as an environmentalist professional level, and in the government of Thailand. So welcome. I think I've got the wrong name on there, but that's okay because we weren't quite sure who was going to present today. Wasana, can you see the screen and unmute yourself? I'm just going to make sure Wasana is with us. So I don't think Wasana is there. I'm just going to check the participants because she may have come in under that.
Yes, apparently she's in the participant. Oh.
Okay, I'm just going to promote her now. Wasana, I'm just going to promote you. And you should be able to be a panelist now, and you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Hello. Good morning and good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Wasana Jangprajak. Today I will share you the experience in developing policy on single-use plastic products. Next slide, please. Next, please. From the information of the Pollution Control Department, during the last decade, the average plastic waste will generate approximately 2 million tons per year, or 12% of the total of solid waste generation. Around 0.5 million tons per year of generated plastic waste are recovered for material recycling and energy recovery. For the rest of plastic, 1.5 million tons are mostly single-use plastic, such as the plastic bag, plastic cup, plastic straw, plastic box, and foam food container. Most of them were disposed of by landfill or incinerator, and some is going to a dumping site. The survey from the Department of Marine Coastal Resources found that the most of top 10 of marine debris, such as the plastic bottle, plastic bag, the glass bottle, and they found the EPS foam scrap, and they found many kinds of plastic scrap in the ocean. Next, please. Thailand, by the Pollution Control Department, has developed the Thailand roadmap on the plastic waste management. We conduct the roadmap, which the aim is to serve as the framework and direction for preventing and solving of plastic waste in the country. The basic principles to apply for the roadmap development are the first is a life cycle approach. The second is the 3R principle, the public-private partnership, the concept of circular economy, and the last concept is responsible consumption and production. Next, please. When we develop the policy on the single-use plastic, we look for the policy linkage. We have the national strategy of Thailand and national reform plan on natural resources and environment. We have the national economic and social development plan and the national waste management master plan. All plan is said that we should to protect and the environment by reduce the waste, and we will should to bring the 3R and the circular economy to improve the waste management. The vision of the plan is moving toward sustainable plastic management by circular economy. Next, please. This picture shows that the activity in the roadmap, we have the 3 phases. The first and the second phase in 2019 and 2022, it stopped using 7 items of the plastic. And the third phase, we focus mainly on the recycling target plastic waste by 100% to circular economy concept. Next, please. The target of the roadmap, we have the 2 targets of the roadmap. The first one is reduce and stop using plastic target with the use of 7 types of environmentally friendly replacement material. The first, we should to stop using 3 types within this the year 2019. In the last year, we stopped using 3 types of plastic. The first is the plastic capsule. The second is plastic product containing oxo, and the third one is the microbead. And for the end of the year 2022, we will be stop using 4 types of plastic. The first is plastic bag, which is the thickness than 36 micron, and the second is food foam container. The third one is the thin plastic cup and the plastic straw. The second target of the roadmap is we should to achieve the 100% recycling rate of the target plastic waste by the year 2027. Next, please. For after we conduct the roadmap, we propose the plastic waste management action plan, which we looking for the 3 phases of the measure for the action plan. The first is reducing the plastic waste as source and reducing the use of single-use plastic at the consumption process. And the last one is we should to manage the post-consumer plastic waste. Now we propose the action plan to the cabinet. The second plan, the action plan is now is we conclude for the first phase and the second phase together. We will propose to the cabinet soon. Next slide, please. This is show what the going on action of the plastic waste in Thailand. We have many kind of program and campaign for the plastic waste. In the part of public-private partnership, we have the voluntary agreement with the 5 largest drinking water producer to stop using capsule for drinking water bottle from 2 years ago. And we have the voluntary agreement and campaign with the more than 40 supermarket and department store to stop using plastic bag. And in the last of September, this year we have voluntary agreement with the food delivery platform to reducing single-use plastic in food delivery. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. This is the example, the best practice for the reducing plastic waste. In Thailand, we reducing plastic waste and plastic bag and foam container in the government office, and we also develop the KPI for the each department to reduce the plastic bag and foam container. We have the program to reducing the plastic bag in market, supermarket, department store and convenience store and grocery store. And we ban the plastic bag and foam food container in the national park. And we set the priority to reduce single-use plastic in the 24 coastal provinces. Next slide, please. This is the best practice for the plastic reduction in the government office. We launched the program and now we reduce the foam container, actually more than 1,000 million pieces per year, and we reduce the plastic bag 4,000 million bag per year, and maybe reduce the single-use plastic cup 40 million cups per year. This kind of thing is we try to make for the KPI for the head of the government to reduce the plastic waste. We should to be the example for the best practice for the people and for the private sector in our country. Next slide, please. This is the program that we conduct the MOU to reduce single-use plastic in food delivery with more than 5 delivery platform to reduce the plastic waste and single-use plastic from the food delivery. Next slide, please. This is show the slang for developing the plastic waste, single-use plastic waste management in Thailand. For the first is global issue. We have faced in the same problem for the single-use plastic in Thailand, and we try to reduce the plastic waste. The second is government policy. If we try to using the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle. But if we try to change to the circular economy, we think the 3 R is not cannot solve the problem of the single-use plastic. So actually, we should to ban it or replace it before ban single-use plastic. As many countries and the city are doing, and replace the petroleum-based single-use plastic with alternative biomaterials such as maybe the paper or the glass or compostable plastic. Or we should to improve the waste collection and send to the appropriate treatment facility to treat for the single-use plastic. The important thing for the develop the policy for the single-use plastic, we should to change the behavior of the consumer. This is the difficult to do it, but we try to do for many campaigns, and we will try to launch the plastic waste management law or regulation to maybe to change the behavior of the consumer.
Excellent. You have 20 seconds, Wasana, just to conclude.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. For the technology and innovation, we should to replacement of the single-use plastic for another packaging, or we should to try to find the incentives, economic incentive to reduce the single-use plastic. And the last one, we should to integrate the informal sector in our policy, because they have the very low investment management in Thailand, and the important mechanism to promote the 3R and TR in the community, and we should to promote to the waste management in Thailand.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Wasana. That was excellent. And just a couple of points that I mean, there's so much information in there. A couple of things that I sort of thought about that really stood out was the government procurement using that as a tool to do work on single-use plastic products. Your very strong emphasis on partnerships. I really like the MOUs and the way that you're reaching out to different stakeholders to develop joint action, and the roadmap, which sets out very clear targets. So that's extremely interesting. We'll come back to you and ask you some questions at the end of the panel, but you'll see a few questions on the Q&A, so feel free to jump on if it's a question about your presentation and answer any of those. So thank you, Wasana. We're just going to move to our next speaker, and on the next page we will see Mrs. Sudevi Subran from Mauritius, and she's going to explain what they are doing there, which is also pretty extensive and exciting to see. So Sudevi, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Alison. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everybody. So I'm from Mauritius. I'm Sudevi Subran. So I will talk about the experience for Mauritius, how we are controlling plastic pollution in Mauritius. So I will talk about the facts and figures. You will see that we are having around 550,000 tons of solid waste that are generated annually, and about 76,000 plastic waste are generated, which represent 14%, and only 4% of them are recycled. For the PET bottles, we have 128 million PET bottles that are commercialized, and only 40% of them are recycled. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, we have the plastic waste. This is a characterization that have been done by our ministry. So we have the different, out of the 14% of the plastic waste, we have the different types. We have the LDPE, the PVC, the polystyrene, the STP, and PET. So next slide, please. Next slide. So as we know, plastic, it takes long time to degrade. It takes from 200 years, it can go up to 1,000 years. So we have to be very careful with plastic waste. Next slide. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk about the impacts. We have a lot of impacts of plastic waste. First of it is the eyesores. We can see a lot of plastic waste. It goes in on the land, in the waterways, and it causes eyesore. Next slide. It also causes flooding when the drains are blocked. And we had recently had this problem of flooding, where our road was flooded, and a lot of vehicles, they collided on the road, and it caused accident. And even there was a death of people when there was flooding. Next slide, please. So we also have impacts with accumulation of water. We have proliferation of vector-borne diseases. We also have air pollution when the plastic is burned. Next slide. We have when the drains, they carry the plastic waste and it goes to the sea, and this is the impact which we had not now but previously in our harbor, but now it is being cleaned. And also we have another problem is impact on health. This is from literature. We can get cardiovascular diseases from endocrine disruption, from birth defect, immune system suppression, and developmental problem in children. Next slide. So recently we had this COVID, and we have seen that there was a lot of mass, the takeaways, the food that were packed in plastic, and they were using a lot of plastic. So this we have to also see how we can reduce plastic waste, because when we have pandemic, we have to have the alternatives. Next slide, please. So for our government policy on single-use plastic product, we have with the new government, in the government program, we had announced to make Mauritius a cleaner, greener country, to adopt a responsible and environmentally sustainable development policy, to make Mauritius a plastic-free country in the nearest possible delay. And we had an Assise de l'Environnement, which was held in last December. And one of the theme was control of plastic pollution. And we are presently preparing the master plan, and will be finalized. We also, Mauritius will promote circularity in the use of plastic, with ultimate goal to reduce plastic waste entering the environment. Next slide. So the theme, as I said, was chosen for the last Assise de l'Environnement, and there was a policy that was developed on strengthening the legislation and promoting alternative. And the second one was promoting reuse and recycling. The third one was to encourage sensitization, and the fourth one was to support research and development. Next slide. So we have three regulations which are in place. The first one was for the PET bottles, and previously it was mainly to control PET for the beverage and water company, and it was only for the local market that the PET bottles were controlled. Next slide. So this PET bottle, it came into promulgation from 2001, but we can see that there was not much progress. So we had to give some financial incentives, and the incentives were we gave them to collect. It was 15 rupees, then for the export, then 5 rupees for the manufacturers. And recently, it is 15 rupees for both export and import, and in excess of only 1 ton. Next slide, please. So you will see the progress that has been made. Not much progress. Only 43% of used PET bottle were collected for recycling, and this is not much. And we are wanting to have more percentage of PET bottle to be collected and sent for recycling. Next slide. So we are now proposing some amendment, because previously it was only for local manufacturers, and now we are going to include importers also, which are who are importing PETs, and it will include not only carbonated drink and water, but also juice, syrup, vinegar, and dairy product. Next slide. So these are bottles that will be included in our PET bottle regulation, and they will be regulated, and there will be extended producer responsibility, where the producers will have to collect and recycle their used PET bottles. Next slide. So the second regulation is the plastic bag regulation, and plastic bag regulation was promulgated in 2015, and it came into force in January 2016. It was a ban on import, manufacture, sale, and supply, and we had excluded 11 types of plastic bag, and we had monitoring done on the biodegradable and compostable bag which are produced and imported. So from 2016 to now, 21 million tons was imported of biodegradable and compostable bag, and around 188 million tons were manufactured locally. We had also had the enforcement, and there was some contravention and prosecution that was done. And we also seized the plastic bag at port. Next slide, please.
You have 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. So the environment protection banning bag regulation was repealed and replaced, and these now make provision for possession, import, and manufacture. And the fine was strengthened, and we have removed the roll-on and small pocket bags and the bags which were sent for, which were used for export. Next slide. Next slide, please. So these are the banned plastic bags. This is the small bags and duty-free bag. Next slide. So these are the exempted bags that are now in the new regulation that are allowed. Next slide, please. We have now promulgated the Environment Protection Control of Single-Use Product, and this has been promulgated since July 2020, and we have banned the single-use, like the cutlery, the fork, the knives, the spoon, the chopstick, the plates, the bowls, and the tray, the straw, the food containers, and we have the different fines for possession, for traders, and for importers, and for manufacturers. Next slide, please. So these are the products, single product that we are going to ban, but we have the exception that the plastic tray, the hinge container, and the sealed plastic straw forming part of integral packaging will not be exempted from January 2021, but by April 2021, because these are taking a longer time. We have representation from the manufacturers and the importers. Next slide, please. So the challenges faced, we are getting the resistance from manufacturers. We have the technological problem, that is, they say that they are not adapting to the machineries to have this product made from biological product. We have the high cost of alternatives, and we are getting some problem with enforcement. We have, as we have lack of enforcement because we don't have enough personnel. Next slide, please. So the trade-off, what we have to do for this to work, we have to do a lot of sensitization. We have to use a lot of alternative to plastic. We have to strengthen our enforcement, and we have to move towards circularity. Next slide. So we are doing the awareness raising and different target groups, namely children, youth, women, community, and senior citizens. Sensitized, and we are having radio talks, TV program, and we are also talking about the alternatives that we can use. Next slide. So these are the sensitization and awareness raising. As we have promulgated the two regulation, we have had the massive sensitization. And this is the Expo 1 that was done, and we can see a lot of SMEs that are moving toward this alternative, that is the cloth bag, the pulp plates, the paper plates, a lot of innovative alternatives that are being introduced. I think I have had all the time. So these are alternatives that are being promoted. We are promoting eco folders, long-lasting water bottles, and during our event, and we are empowering our women prisoners in promoting alternative plastic, and we are collaborating with our private sectors to solicit in for distribution of eco-friendly and long-lasting bags in all our household of Mauritius. So I think
excellent. And you've got about 20 seconds left, but I know that you've got some great pictures just to flick through and show people some examples. If you could just do that quickly, and then we could conclude there.
Yeah, so these are the bags that are being promoted. You see that the cloth bag, the woven bags, the nylon bags, which are long-lasting, and these also the cooler bags. We are telling our private sector to do that, so that they can have the frozen frozen thing to be put there and taken from the supermarket. Next slide. So these are the biodegradable containers, and as I said, we have a lot of SMEs that are entering this market. Next slide. Next slide. So for the long-lasting containers, we will sensitize our population to use the long-lasting containers, but in the long run, we might promote them in our events. Next slide. So this is a long-lasting bottles. It is widely being used by our students, and we are also promoting them for in our events, in our workshop, in our events, so that they can use it. And these bottles they will use, and we are also planning to have fountains to be installed in our public places, in our schools, and in our government offices. Next slide.
Okay, so Devi, we'll just have 20 more seconds, and then we just need to wrap up very quickly now.
Okay, so we are also moving towards circularity. We will have to do a lot of recycling. We are putting a lot of eco bins, which are being put by our ministry, and we have also the construction of civic amenity centers, so that they can separate their waste and then collect it to the recyclers. Next slide. This one is an interesting one. Next. This you will see that we have marked all the recyclers, and you see we have a lot of civic amenity centers. We have 5 of them, and the first one will come into operation, the Lashomia one, as from November 2020. So the other 4 one, Rochebois, Putredo, La Lora, and La Brasserie will come afterwards, and then after sorting, they will go to the recyclers, and the remaining waste will go to the multiples. Next slide.
Excellent. I'm going to have to stop you there, Sudevi. So do you want to just stop on this one slide? Because here's some great examples of some recycled plastic products.
This one, the recycling plastic product, you see we have a recycler who is doing the benches and fences for us. So we are moving toward this recycling thing, and we are producing excellent benches and tables for us. So that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you. Sorry to break you off, Sudevi, and I know you've got lots of great information in there. Remember that the recording, but also the presentations will be shared with everyone at the end, and so you'll be able to get some of the other information that is very useful as well after this event. So thank you very much, Sudevi. If you could just wait for the panel session, we'll call you back to ask you some questions. Excellent presentation. I really liked the expo event. I thought that was a great idea. The sensitization is obviously something that you're considering is very important, which is nice to see, and enforcement. So we'll come back to you. I just want to move on quickly to our next speaker. And here we go. Oh, back one, maybe. There we back one slide. Yep. Okay, Dumisani Buthelezi, welcome. He is from the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries in South Africa. A waste expert, has been involved in this area for some time, and it's a pleasure to have you to talk to us today about what's happening in South Africa and what are the opportunities and challenges around developing policy. Welcome.
Thank you so much, colleagues. Good morning, good evening. It's a morning in South Africa. It's about 11:05. Thank you for providing us an opportunity as the National Department of Environmental Affairs to present our position on single-use plastics. Next slide. So, colleagues, our approach as the government, especially the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries, is first to acknowledge the role that plastic plays in our socio-economic development. It's been there. There's been a lot of innovations, and you might also agree with me that for countries that are still industrializing, plastic, it's quite central because it provides support to a wide range of sectors under the manufacturing segment. But then we also need to accept, colleagues, that most plastic materials escape into the land and marine environment. And unfortunately, especially the fossil fuel-based type of plastics, they take time to disappear in the environment. And plastic is increasingly considered as one of the problematic waste streams that are occupying landfill sites, illegal dams, rivers. And in Africa, it's not only an environmental issue, according to Jambek, it's also affecting local fisheries, for instance, biodiversity and infrastructure in terms of talking river systems or pipe systems. Next slide. So, colleagues, this is a reflection of how the sector is doing in South Africa. This is our local consumption of plastic. You could see that generally the sector it's growing. There's a lot of production, except in the year around 2008, 2009 with the global economic meltdown. But otherwise, the sector and the contribution of the sector into the GDP, it's noted. Next slide. So South Africa might be in the SADC region in Africa, but then the production it's still significant in comparison to other countries. It might be at 0.5%, but if you check that in terms of quantities, it's a really significant number. And it's the very same increase is worrying, because South Africa, like many developing countries, is still lacking infrastructure for waste services provision. And we are not covering the whole corners of South Africa. Some municipalities are still struggling to provide basic minimum infrastructure to control waste, and that includes plastics. Hence, then, that when we look at the sector as a very significant contributor in terms of job creation, we also worry so much about the escape, or rather the leakage of the very same plastic into the environment. And it is our mandate as the government to act and provide solutions into that. Next slide. So this is another example of plastic, especially packaging. I think South Africa is sitting at about 54% in terms of plastic, single-use plastic packaging, and that is a significant number. But globally, you could see the sector is also growing. Consumers want flexible products, very nice products to have. Unfortunately, some of these products are made out of plastics, and there's less and less alternatives, of course. You can move. Next slide. So we also fall in the region that consumes, or rather fails to manage plastic, especially when it comes to marine litter pollution. Next slide. We basically use this basic definition of what single-use plastics are, and then this translates into our policy statements. For example, the extended producer responsibility, a policy instrument that we have advertised now. It focuses on this type of single-use plastics going forward. We will be adding other materials that fall under the biodegradables or compostables as alternatives. But these are the most common single-use plastic materials that are in abundance, and our focus is on them because they get to be used almost on a daily basis. We have just conducted a survey on plastic straws, and the responses that we have received from the public, because we had video interviews and online interviews, then you could realize that in fact people are saying my drink still tastes the same even if I don't drink out of a straw. So there's really no use for me to use a straw. And retailers are saying they are ready to provide alternatives or to remove straws from their shelves. But then the question is, the customers or rather consumers would demand a straw sometimes. So there's a lot of awareness raising that needs to go with that. Next slide. These are some of the reasons why we don't need to use single-use plastic products, colleagues. You all part of this work, you understand very well. Next slide. So in terms of plastic waste mismanagement and our carelessness in terms of failing to block plastic from affecting our marine systems, we are rating at number 11 compared to other countries in the world. That is, it's really worrying, considering that we are on the southern tip of the world and in Africa, but look at our consumption and our failure to manage and provide solutions to blocking or handling plastic very well. Next slide. So we did plastic material flow study, which confirmed that we are sitting at about 54%, and it's largely single-use packaging. Next slide. This is a popular slide. We all have seen this picture. It basically indicates that we still have a long way to go, because a lot of practices in many parts of the world are still linear. There's no circularity. Where it's available, it's faced with challenges. Sometimes it stops. Sometimes there's very little budget that goes into that circularity systems. Then the systems would usually fail. The failures of separation at source, for instance, where municipalities are claiming that it's very expensive to run separation at source initiatives or diversion systems. So most of municipalities find it easy to collect and dispose in the landfill sites, which I think for us it's very unfair, because if municipalities can allocate money for collection and disposal, it means with time they could structure the very same funding or apply for more money to start separation at source, where plastic could be diverted for other use. Next slide.
Okay, you have 2 more minutes.
So
Sorry to interrupt.
The plastic materials flow study indicated that there's a serious problem with single use in the country. Single-use plastic waste is likely to increase with projected increase in population growth and urban expansion, especially with regards to informal settlements. The sprawling informal spaza shops economy has given rise to non-compliant single-use plastic carrier bags. Next slide. So in terms of policy intervention, colleagues, we are having the National Waste Management Strategy. A new one was approved again last month by Cabinet. So we have new targets and new actions and goals for our interventions in waste management. But we also have the MOU that was signed by government, business, and the social partners to try and address plastic bags. But that MOU failed dismally to address the problem of plastic bags. That is why we are now moving towards reviewing the targets and the requirements. We've actually amended our plastic bag regulations to require the manufacturing of plastic bags using 50% until 100% in 2027. But I need to be honest, the public wants us to ban plastic bag based on the responses that we have received. The South Africans want us to ban plastic bags. Next slide. So we still have these challenges. The current policy instrument, it's only the plastic bag regulation, which does not consider other type of single use. There's no policy instrument that manages other single use. It's only the plastic bag. The other single use plastic products are managed just like any other waste generally. So we are moving towards that. There is a study that we are conducting now looking at the social economic impact of a policy on other single use products beyond the plastic bags. So we will be coming up with a new policy instrument that will consider other single use plastic products. It could be the banning or the phase out of these plastic products. We had a meeting with Parliament and the Minister yesterday. There's a strong move towards banning and providing alternatives in the country. We still have to work on that and consult and then make sure that we move and identify specific timelines that would be about the phasing out period, but the work has already started. Next slide. We've done this. Next slide. It's about the plastic bag policies. So these are the options that the public suggested, including the industry. Next slide. So the new requirement is that plastic carrier bags and plastic flat bags must be made from a minimum of 50% post-consumer recycled by 1 January 2023, 2025 at 75%, 100% by 2027. But again, the public is against this timeline. They are saying it's forever. We need to be at 100% now in 2025 instead of 2027, or consider banning plastic bags totally. Next slide.
Just one more minute,
this is the survey that we are conducting now. The work has started. It's ongoing. We will be providing information after the study is finalized. But in terms of LCA, the CSIR, it's not the department, but the CSIR in South Africa has done the LCA for plastic bags. We can share the report with the colleagues here. And I know that LCA is a requirement in our new EPR policy instrument for paper and packaging waste. And then the work around straws, we are finalizing the action around straws. It will be a policy instrument that will add into the policy instrument that deals with plastic bags, because you want to group all single use under one policy instrument, if that is possible, depending on what the assessment will tell us. Next slide. So our recommendation is that we need to develop a new policy instrument to address single use plastic, because currently there's none. Thank you.
Excellent, and thank you, Dumisani, for that great presentation. And once again, it's fantastic to see how you're thinking about developing policy and what you're focusing on. It's extremely interesting. I'd just like to invite back our other speakers, Wasana and Sudevi. if you could just come unmute yourselves. And I'm just going to tell everyone now, we will end 5 minutes late because I do want to give a full 10 minutes Q&A because we've got lots of questions to ask our panelists, and they have just such a lot of experience in developing policy. It'll be great to hear some of their answers and hear from them on things that we should be thinking about. I've got a question here for Wasana. Somebody asked us how well has Thailand done in reaching its first target, particularly on stopping the 3 types of plastic in 2019, and how do you measure the achievement of that target?
Hi, for the first target, you mean the first target, right?
Yes, 2019. Did you reach that target?
Yes. Actually, we reached in the first target. We have the 3 type of the plastic. We reached for the plastic capsule, and for the oxo and the microbead. We the process to cooperate with the release organization to do this. And for the plastic capsule, we achieved because we cooperate with the private sector, with the drinking water producer for stop using the capsule. So we think that the cooperation with the stakeholders, the public-private partnership is important for the reduce or stop using for the plastic or single-use plastic. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Sudevi, you are reaching out and working with stakeholders as well. You have quite a strong focus on sensitisation, which was great to see. What do you think works best, in your opinion, when you're trying to sensitise consumers and stakeholders to the problems of plastic product pollution and also alternatives? What things have worked best? I mean, you gave some examples of radio talks and different groups and TV sort of adverts or videos. What works best in your opinion?
Yeah, for the yes, you mean for the consumer behavior and the.
Oh, Wasana, you can answer this question too. It's really for Sudevi, but Wasana, I mean, you saw some examples of Sudevi who had shown sensitisation campaigns. Is Thailand doing that as well?
Yes.
Consumers? Wasana?
Yes, you asked for the MOU or?
No, I was just. I tell you what, I'll ask Sudevi first, Wasana. So if you just turn your just wait, Sudevi, you had lots of campaigns around sensitisation. What works best in your opinion?
Yeah. So for me, I will say with the plastic bag regulation, which came into force in 2016, we have seen. We did a lot of sensitization, a lot of radio talk, a lot of TV, and we have seen that has impacted mainly on the big supermarket, big private sectors. They have stopped using this plastic bag. But what happened? We had this exempted plastic bag, the roll-on, which was used for only fresh meat and chicken. And this was flooded in our markets, in our vegetable markets, and they were using it illegally. But since there was a loophole in our legislation, we cannot do this enforcement. We have seen that our sensitization was very good at that time itself, but because there was this exemption, they used illegally for other use. And now also with the promulgation of the single-use plastic containers, we have done a lot of sensitization, and we have to see if they are really abiding by the law, We have to see it because now it will be as from January. But
okay, thank you, Sativi.
for the plastic bag, it was okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Good answer. If you could just mute yourself while you're not talking, and I'm just going to ask Dumasani a question now. Here is a question for you. What do you feel your country or South Africa would need or could need in information or support in developing more policy on single-use plastic products?
Thank you for the question. If I can try to understand, you are saying what would we need?
Yeah, what do you think you need more information or support on something and to help you develop policy on single-use plastic products, or do you think you already have enough information and now it's a case of developing?
We definitely thank you for the question. We definitely need support. We need more information to make an informed policy position. There is a very strong reaction from the industry. For every move that we take, we are attacked, if I may put it in that way, and we get challenged to provide scientific evidence that supports our policy decision. So it would be very handy if someone comes in and say, this is the new research, we want to assist South Africa in this area, because we haven't done much, to be quite honest. And so we really need that support and more information, especially on the targets, especially and also on the alternatives, for instance, and the social economic impact studies, because we are told that the position that we want to take would affect employment, would also affect the industry. So sometimes we find ourselves having to consider some of these things that would compromise the environment at the end of the day. So having more good information would assist.
Okay, just another question. I'm following up on that. I mean, how do you best engage the informal sector? So does the informal sector play quite a role in this area in South Africa? I know it does in Thailand. Does it in South Africa?
Building from case studies from Brazil and other countries in the developing world, we have what we call a waste picker integration guideline, because we acknowledge the labor that these people are actually providing and no one is paying them. They contribute, they assist municipalities in actually saving huge costs in managing this waste. So we have very good relationship with waste picker representative organizations. We support their initiatives. We donate where possible, but we continuously engage municipalities to try and find a way to work with waste pickers, because there's really no way the country would be filthy if waste pickers were to be stopped. So the national government is leading in that work. There is a very good relationship.
Excellent. Thank you, Dumasani. I'm going to go back to Wasana and ask you a question. I mean, you're doing a lot of work in Thailand around bringing people together. Dumasani, if you could just mute yourself while you're waiting, just so we don't have any background noise. But Wasana, you gave examples of the government working together with MOUs, with companies, with the food service industry. How hard has it been to get all those stakeholders together around the table, and how important is that to your policy making?
For the policy for the single-use plastic in the food delivery.
Yes. So how important has it been to get the industry and other stakeholders to talk together about what to do on single-use plastic products?
Yes, we have the collaboration and we have the meeting with the stakeholder for the platform and for everybody to meeting, and we have the measure and the practice for the stakeholder, we try to contact with the producer for the packaging, for the environmentally friendly packaging to produce the compostable packaging for the food delivery and to reduce the single-use plastic.
Excellent. And another question, somebody had a question around your MOU with the food service operators. What are businesses committing to under this MOU? Do they use reusable containers rather than single-use plastic products? Is that what they're committing to?
Yes, we promote for the compostable packaging, and for the reusable packaging is under consideration because it's hard to do.
Okay, excellent. So Devi, I've got a question for you, and then we might just ask one question for everyone to end. But Sue Devi, here's your question. How hard is it to enforce policy on single-use plastic products?
Yes,
For Sue Devi.
Yeah. For the enforcement one, we have the legislation, and there are a lot of clauses that are related. And we, at the ministry, we have one of the division, which is called the Pollution Prevention and Control Division, together with the Police de l'Environnement, the policemen of environment sector. They do the enforcement. What they do the crackdown operation. They go in the market, they do the crackdown, they see if they are using these plastic bags, then they are going to seize it. The other one, what we do, it is at the port. At the port, we do the customs officers, they tell us that this is, they don't have a certificate, a registration certificate. Then we go there and we do the seizing of, we seize this plastic bag and we send them to the recyclers for recycling. So this is how we do our enforcement. But now
excellent.
We have one innovative equipment that have been brought in our laboratory, which is the FTIR, and we are using it to see what are the material there. So when we go in the court, we will tell them, according to our expert, these are the plastic material in the bags, and that's why we have seized. So
excellent. That's a great example, Sudevi, and it's a very interesting, I think, conversation that we could speak about for a long time. But the enforcement, you gave some really interesting information there around how you enforce that policy, and I think that will be interesting to follow up on. We can't do that right now because we're coming to the end of our session, and I want to thank all three of you for coming along today and presenting on behalf of your country on your policy and your policy development and the opportunities and challenges. It was extremely useful to hear these case studies, and it gives a lot of rich sort of information for others to think about and to learn from. So I'd like to thank all three of you today. It's been wonderful to have you join us, and I would like to now introduce our last speaker of the day, and that is Lorenz, who's coming back just to give a quick summary of the key points. Lorenz.
Yes, thank you very much, Alison, and thanks everyone. I mean, it's been really, really hectic. So thank you. I mean, I will not do it, but I really wanted to highlight that the question and answer and both the chat as well has been manic through the day. There's been a lot of questions, and the discussion certainly shows that there is a huge interest for this. Maybe some points to highlight in terms of summary. I mean, certainly we've seen that there is a lot of learnings from the LCA studies. It's also been interesting to hear from some of the participants that actually these learnings from LCA, we've known about these conclusions for a long time. So really the key issue is to bring these learnings to the policy making, which is really happening now, and this is exciting. At the same time, we've seen also the limitations of LCA. So we cannot solve absolutely everything, but that's important, and it's important as well to consider other elements. The impacts from litter and marine litter in particular have been highlighted. But then we've heard a lot, and I think the presentations today from Thailand, Mauritius, and South Africa, I mean, it's been extremely enlightening. We've seen a lot of the good progress that is being made, but also the challenges. that they are facing. And many of these challenges, I mean, linked to lack of infrastructure, even though it's not just infrastructure on waste, but also infrastructure for reuse systems has been mentioned. And we're seeing how actually we're jumping and we're really going into a different type of economy for plastics, moving to this circular economy. The concept has been mentioned, I think, in all of the presentations. And this circular economy, it's not just about the recycling. It's not just closing the loop in the end, but it's also considering new ways of using, as mentioned. So more moving towards reuse systems and reuse schemes, which we've seen in the LCA studies, tend to be more resource efficient, as long as the infrastructure is there, as long as they can be used properly, etc. Other things that I've noted, and I was just checking the notes, it really the problem of accessing the data and getting the data right, the metrics are important. There's been also a few questions about, well, there's the collection, there's the sorting, but does it actually mean recycling? When we're exporting waste to other countries, does it actually get recycled? And this is also something that we need to strengthen a bit more in terms of making sure that the definitions of what goes where are important. And perhaps just to close, I mean, I think we've seen a lot of examples. Key issues have been mentioned, I think, consistently across all the country presentations, such as the importance of consumer awareness and consumer behavior. How do we communicate to consumers to nudge the right types of behaviors? But there's also a lot that is quite common, and in this respect, perhaps a discussion about how international cooperation can help would also be relevant, and how collaboration between countries could help. But maybe that's a question then for the last webinar, which will happen next Tuesday. I'm sure that I've left out many important points that have been discussed today, but certainly they will be collected in the presentations, the recording, and hopefully also the Q&A summary that will be done in the end. So I think we're really short of time. So back to you, Alison, and thank you very much, absolutely everybody, for staying for the whole presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Lorenz. And I'm just going to say a big thank you from all of the team that's behind all the chat there. There's quite a few of us, and it's been a very interactive session. Questions and answers were brilliant, and so was the chat that was coming through. And I just want to give a plug for those that will still be awake for our last session, where you're having the European Commission, Canada, and St. Lucia present in our last session. So that'll be interesting. And we will have a behavioural expert psychologist on the call too, to talk about some of that work. So look, thank you very much for joining us. Have a great day or a great night wherever you are, and we'll see you next time, and keep safe, everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.